The children of Gaza are suffering. They have no food or medical supply. But you can help. Please open your heart and make a donation by clicking in the link below. Shukran and God bless you.
Cannot believe what we have brought on Gaza. Thank Allah that we are safe in the plaza. There's nothing left to eat like a Ramadan retreat. I don't really give a shit, cause I'm hanging in my sweet. Check, check, check. Wanna check out, we are dealing here with monsters. The room service wouldn't bring us lobsters. Call Maya Khalifa to play with us some FIFA and tell her to dress up like she is a nurse in Shifa. Dollar bills, dollar bills. My people have no water, wonder how it feels. Dollar bills, dollar bills. They have no gasoline, I just wonder when you will. Donate us money, my dog needs new Armani. Gaza sky is black, but Qatar is always sunny. Knocking, knocking on the door, fuck it's the Mossad. Chill ya baba, I just ordered sushi avocado. Dollar bills, dollar bills. Mash'al is so straight, he just got himself new grills. Dollar bills, dollar bills. Put some Netflix on, I don't want to see the kills. Donate us money, my dog needs new Armani. Gaza sky is black, but Qatar is always sunny. You just give me money, life is pretty funny. Gaza sky is black, but Qatar is always sunny.
Cry harder.
We need more money.
People of the world.
Alrighty, guys. Welcome to Conservative Confucius. My name is Tovaya. You can either call me by my birth name, Tovaya, or you can call me by my adoptive name, which is Chris. Either one really doesn't matter. Let's get into the video. We're going to be talking about Israel-Palestine. We're going to be going over some comedic stuff, obviously, like we opened up with the video of the, not satire, really, because it's accurate, but a little funny video of the leaders of Hamas, which are billionaires, $4, $5, $6 billion each. Literally, one has 4, one has 5, one has $6 billion, respectively. And I don't mean respectively, I mean respectively, just making that clear. They get all of the aid that comes from other countries, and they use it for themselves to enrich their own portfolios, which is technically illegal according to Islam because you can't invest, but we won't get into that. It's not halal. But yeah, they basically just give Hamas whatever money they need for, missiles, whatever else. And they very little of the money, I'm talking like a tiny portion, goes to humanitarian aid. But the crazy thing is Gaza pays taxes. So they're not only not giving the people what they're paying for with their own money, but they're also not giving them what they get in actual charitable donations from around the world. So, and humanitarian aid from governments. So all of the money they get literally goes to their pocket, while a small, minute proportion goes to the actual people of Gaza. So if you want to talk about the monsters who have starved Gaza over the last 20 years, it's them. If you want to talk about the monsters who completely ruined that community and took it from this like amazing strip of land that had all types of people in it from all different types of walks of life, Hamas did that. If you want to talk about the fact that they've completely radicalized an entire 2 million person population, Hamas did that. Israel didn't do that. They've been teaching that since the moment they got there, before Israel had even done anything, whether it was retaliation attacks based on suicide bombings, whether it was clearing out Hamas agents after suicide bombings or stabbings, which they have done a lot. Israel is always on edge. And I agree that can be a hard place to live under. If you live next to a neighbor who is constantly attacked by other neighbors, and you're one of those people who has attacked them, whether or not you're going to in the future or whether or not your kids have ever done it, it's going to be hard for the kids living in that family if the parents are always attacking the neighbor, because the kids have to live in the same house with those parents. And those kids are going to be forever constantly viewed as bad or evil, and they're going to be indoctrinated by their parents. Most likely they're going to be treated like trash because by the neighbor or neighbors who they've robbed, who they've stolen from, who they've maybe beaten or attacked or assaulted. And that's going to be hard on them because they're going to think, okay, this neighbor or neighbors are just out to get me because my parents screwed them over. Like, why can't they just see I'm a different person? And the problem is like, it's hard to see that when you're saying the same things they did, when you are doing the same things they did. And you may say, oh, well, they just attacked me, and then I go back and attack them. But it's like, that's not how it goes, dude. Like, initially there is attacks, and then there's more attacks, and then there's plotting for attacks. And whether you think that plotting for attacks is worthy of or justifying some type of military action, it is, because Israel doesn't need more 124 people dead in, restaurant bombings, or, 300 people injured in, and like 65 dead because of bus bombings. Like, they've had too many of those. Like, hundreds of suicide bombings have gone down in Israel, to the point where, like, they literally put up a wall around Gaza because of how many people were coming in. And then they built tunnels. Like, and they didn't put a huge wall up. It's just a wall that goes over probably like 150 yards, and then the rest is just like a fence, and like literally just a fucking chain link fence. Sorry for my language. And people need to understand this before they get into the whole thing. And like, not only that, like the fact that Israel has had a Jewish population since its foundation in, what was it? Around like 1400 BC. And if you want to go back to the fact that like the people the Hebrews, which come from, the land of Israel, and their descendants and, relatives have been in that land, the Levant, since basically Noah's flood. At least the descendants of Shem, which are the Semites, Jews, Middle Easterners, not all. Arabs technically are called Semites, but they're actually not Semites, according to multiple biblical scholars over the last 20 years. I thought they were, but I guess I was wrong. They have good relations to them, but they're actually like a distinct separate group that has many similar features or similar characteristics, but is actually a distinct separate group. Anyways, you can learn about that in the Bible, the land of Havilah. It's too much Bible stuff. I don't want to get into it. We'll get into another time if people want me to. So they... Like the Palestinian, let's just get into the Palestinian identity. The Palestinian identity didn't exist until basically 1964, which is when the Palestinian identity movement was born. No one actually identified as a Palestinian. They identified as a Arab Palestinian, or a Jewish Palestinian, or a Christian Palestinian, or an Armenian Palestinian, wherever they were from, plus Palestinian. Palestine wasn't actually a land, and it was never even called Palestine itself until the British Mandate. Before that, it was called by the Ottoman Empire, it was called Greater Syria, and it was the southern part was actually where Israel was called South Syria, or southern Greater Syria, I think it was. And then before the Ottoman Empire, it was called Syria again, and then some people just called it Syria Palestine, or Syria-Palestina, or Palestina. And then before that, it was called Palestina again, but it's Palestina actually. Palais, like A-E instead of just E after the L. So it's like Palestina. And then before that, it was Syria-Palestina, which was named because, and that's the Romans. So you have the Romans who took it. Also there was obviously I forgot the Crusaders. They had it for a couple times, and they actually called it both Palestine and Israel due to the fact that it's their holy land and they believe it was called Israel. Some just called it the Holy Land. Some called it, the land of Israel-Palestine. Some called it both, it was not Palestine, Israel-Palestina, Israel-Palestine, like just because there's no P. But the thing is that word Palestine comes from Philistine, which isn't actually the name of a land in that area. It was called Philistia, and Philistia was a Greek colony. We'll go over here right here. Philistia was a Greek colony. The Philistines, they came from, let me see if I can find a good picture. That one's okay. All right. This is the ancient kingdom of Israel. So all of this was the greater kingdom of actually like technically like some of Moab, some of here, like, and even some of Edom later, but and then eventually all of Philistia as well. But so all of this from the wilderness of Zin all the way up to even like a little bit up here was all Israel around this time. So from like actually it goes all the way back. This is the kingdom of Israel. The 12 tribes, they were all different kingdoms at the time. Well, technically, they all had like their own individual kings, which is actually called the time of no kings in the Bible. You can read about that in 1st and 2nd Kings. The time that Israel had no kings, because it wasn't technically one place yet, or at least two separate places where Judah and Israel were considered all. It was called just Israel, or Judea Samaria, which is also known as Israel again. But Judea Samaria, also known as Israel, was the kingdom of Israel later on. It started around, according to a lot of sources, 1350, at latest 1400, but we don't know. Possibly around 1400, they really started like fully settling the land after buying the majority of this land. So you're talking about like all of probably like from here all the way to here. So like just a little bit of the bottom and a little bit of the top and probably a little bit of the side right here were not covered in the initial land purchase from the Canaanites. And then the rest was taken through conquest or through battles because the neighbors didn't like them not being polytheists and other things, or it became through assimilation where they actually joined in communities and the other people joined into the Israelite people to worship Yahweh. Like not all of the Midianites, but you know, in Medina, the Midianites, some of them, like for example, Moses' wife was a Midianite, and many of the Midianites that were in her specific Midianite tribe followed Moses into the desert, wandered with him, and their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren all were part of the kingdom of Israel. But later on, like during, I think Moses was still alive at this time, the Midianites, the other Midianite tribes, they did not agree with this, and they said, no, we're not doing this. And God basically told them, you have to stop sacrificing kids or I'm going to kill you. And he told the Israelites, okay, they haven't stopped killing kids. They haven't stopped doing these, polytheistic things. And I have had enough of them. It's time for you to commit war or start war against them and enact my judgment upon them. And that's where like some of the southern land that the Israelites initially not settled in, but stayed in for a good minute, which is where like the Rock of Moab and Rock of Horeb, not Moab, Rock of Horeb, along with possibly we think the actual mountain where Moses got the 10 Commandments, and then later God struck with lightning or some type of smote. He smote the mountain and it burnt the mountain top. And you actually can find a mountain there. It's completely black, charred. Like rocks are like just charred. It's crazy. And it's only on the tip. And you can actually find a rock at the bottom of the mountain that looks like a spring welled up out of the middle of it, just split the rock down the middle. And it has all these water-wearing marks that looks like there was a spring flowing out of it. And that's where we actually think the real Rock of Horeb is. It's really great. There's a great guy called Bible Expedition. He goes through like actual like real verifiable things you can look at in real life and says, okay, this is what we actually think, and then here's the evidence based on that and the archaeology, on the history and the theology, and then he kind of combines them all together to give you the best evidence and opinions to arm yourself with like religious truth, to arm yourself for religious strength, and just give you more faith on your grounded religious beliefs, give them more of a grounded view. But yeah, so this is Philistia. It actually went all the way up to Ashdod. And so Ashkelon, even though it's in Israel right now, was actually part of Philistia. But the Philistines were a Greek colony, basically. They were from the island of Crete, actually, but they weren't part of the greater Greek Empire. The people, like for example, they weren't part of the Greeks that invaded Israel, and then the Israelites fought them back. The Maccabee rebellion. So they weren't part of that. They weren't part of that in any way. They didn't have anything to do with like Sparta and Athens and Argos and none of that. They weren't part of that. They were completely separate. They lived in an island that Greek knew about. Obviously, they were kind of far actually off the coast compared to other islands in Greece. There's many islands. The island of Argos. They weren't that close. Much further away. Further out in the Mediterranean, and they were very heavily seagoing people, obviously, and their island is actually pretty big. And they decided to go and colonize certain areas that the Greek Empire hadn't touched yet, like around the Mediterranean coast. And one of these areas was a place called Philistia. So they set up a city-state in Philistia around, I think it was like 1150, I think it's 1167 is actually considered the actual date, 1167, but some people say 1150. So it's about 100 years. Sorry, not 100 years. It's about 150 years minimum after the founding of Israel, possibly even up to 400 years, depending on when you actually consider the founding of Israel. Is it just when the tribes got into the land, or is it when they set up actual distinct tribe lands with, small kingdoms, or is it when they became an actual together kingdom? But if you just want to go according to when they actually got into the land finally and were no longer wandering the desert, it's been about 350 years. And so finally when they get there, they set up a little city-state. They have battles back and forth with the Israelites, and they become basically the Israelites' like number one enemy in the area because they're trying to colonize all of this land. All of this land, they want it, and they want this entire area, the Levant. And they constantly fight with other places like Amalek, and even the Edomites come around and fight them. And so like these people had constant battles with the native people of this land. And eventually they did lose. This is, the start of this was basically David and Goliath and the battles that followed, and, the battles and wars that followed afterwards. Also you have, who was it? Salt? No, not Salt. No. Give me a second. Samson. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. I'm great with my Bible stuff. For some reason, I'm just blanking on that. Sorry. But yeah, Samson, the man who got his strength from his hair, he killed tons of Philistines, like just obliterated them. And this is just like, this is when this was all going on. It was a crazy time. And eventually, I think it was they say it was around 604 to 607. So we don't know exactly the year, but we know that it was between those years. So it was a 3-year period. We know that it happened. The majority of the people of Philistia went back to Crete or to some other part of the Mediterranean, whether it was another colony, we don't actually know. But there were a small portion around, like I think it was estimated that it was around 15% of their population stayed. And this is mainly elderly or people who were just really young, or people who had kids who were really young, and mainly women. And so they stayed and then like assimilated into the community and just became Israelites themselves. You'll see this a lot throughout Israel's history, where they just allowed people to say, hey, if you're willing to commit to our God and our traditions, then we're willing to let you in. It was a very multi-ethnic community, and people forget that. People think like, and don't try to say like people who think, oh, the true Jews are black. Not true. They weren't. They were Semites, and people think, oh, well, it was near Africa, so they have to be black. No, it's not true. Again, stop saying just because something is in Africa, it has to be black. That's stupid. It's racist, and it's ahistorical. The Egyptians were not black. The Jews were not black. Jesus was not black. I'm not saying he was white either. He definitely was not white. He was a Semite of that time. Yes, there are different types of Semites today who have different levels of skin, and that's due to lots and lots of time and lots of people breeding with different people. It doesn't matter that we do, though. I'm not saying that's wrong, but back then it was not normal for a Jew to not marry another, or an Israelite to not marry another Israelite. At the time, Judaism was not called Judaism. It was called Yahwehism. And it was not okay for another Yahwehist to marry a different, like a Gentile. So they would have looked the same. And if they married a convert, that was fine. But it had to be approved by the parents if they were marrying a convert, because many converts were just there because they wanted to live there and didn't want to leave. And they liked, you know, the environment or the trade, or they thought it was their home because they'd been there for a while. So they didn't want to leave. And that could have been a problem if they had loyalties elsewhere. That's why most of the parents had to approve that stuff. Anyways, let's get on to the second video. Where do Palestinians think they are actually from? Do they have real history? You know, like, do they believe they came from, Israel? Do they believe their ancestors were Jews or Christians? Do they believe that they're from another country? And this one I think goes over specifically, are their ancestors Jews? Were their ancestors Jews and Christians? Because they can't be Muslims. Like, they could be for the last, you know, whatever number of years, like, but it only goes back to 640 AD is when Islam really spread. And it didn't even get to the land of Israel until about 647, I think. So you can't say that they're Jew or they were Muslims, because it didn't even exist in that land. And the majority of Jews and Christians rejected Islam, which is why they, you know, Muhammad led over 23 raids during his lifetime and killed over, you know, thousands of Jews and thousands of Christians, more Jews and Christians. Like Khaybar, he slaughtered almost 10,000 and 10,000 Jews and like almost, I think it was like just over around 1,500 Christians. And that's, you know, like, so they obviously can't be Muslims. It didn't exist before that. And that's what they're asking them. Were you a Jew or were you a Christian before that? Most of these people don't even know that things existed before that, or they refuse to accept it. They're like, no, always Muslim. And you're like, no. Like before Islam, before the idea of the word Muslim ever existed, before Arabic was a language, what were you? And they're like, Muslim, nothing else. No, nothing else. Like, and they don't even know their history. They're so brainwashed that they truly think this is the way things are. And it's crazy. If you ask a Jew, were you always a Jew? And they'll be like, well, I mean, going back how far? And you're like, oh, well, to the beginning of Judaism. And they're like, well, yeah, of course then. But like, what about before that? And it's like, well, I guess no, I wasn't a Jew before that. No, because Judaism didn't exist. So, and they're like, okay, all right. Because Judaism technically, or, you know, Yahwehism didn't exist until really not even Abraham. It was like after Moses, and really it started, I guess, with Moses was the official, like, because, you know, the Mosaic law and things like that. So that was really where Judaism or Yahwehism was born. Before that, it was just simple Yahwehism. There was no traditions. There was no other than, like, you know, just submitting to God through sacrifice, prayer, and trust. There wasn't really anything else. There was no laws, no traditions. And that's where Yahwehism came in, is like, you know, God wanted a true relationship with his people. And then that evolved into what we know as Christianity and so on. But so these people, they don't have any idea about those practices, about those traditions. They just think Islam existed forever. And even if we didn't know about it, it was there, is what they're saying, basically.
Were your ancestors Jews or Christians before they converted to Islam?
هل أجدادك كانوا مسيحيين أو يهود قبل ما يعتنقوا الإسلام؟
لا، احنا بطبيعتنا من عهد الرسالة المحمدية اللي لها يعني من بداية القرن يعني مسلمين بطبيعتنا من عهد الرسالة المحمدية.
Were your ancestors Jews and Christians that converted to Islam?
هل أجدادكم كانوا يهود ومسيحيين أسلموا؟
ما بعرف ايش كان أجدادنا أسلموا؟ أجدادنا مسلمين. إحنا أجدادنا كلهم مسلمين يعني.
Of course, all of our ancestors are Muslims.
أجدادنا كمان.
The ancestors of our ancestors are Muslims also.
And this is what I'm talking about. Like, they don't understand that reality. Like, it doesn't compute with them. Even when he asks, like, okay, but before Islam, before there was anything known as Muslim, and they're like, no, I don't know. No, there are no Jews, no Christians.
Okay, but before Islam?
بس قبل الإسلام هل كانوا مسيحيين أو يهود؟ No, they were Muslims.
Okay. Were your ancestors Jews and Christians before they converted to Islam?
هل أجدادك كانوا من الديانة اليهودية والمسيحية قبل ما يحولوا على الإسلام أو قبل ما يعتنقوا الإسلام؟
A kid crying in the background hurt my ears. Sorry.
كانوا مسلمين ما كان في مثلا زمان حدا أسلم
يعني كانوا يعني مش عارفين أسلموا لا
مش مشركين ممكن كانوا مسيحية أو يهود وأسلموا. So she said no, they're Muslims. I said, are you sure?
And again, see, like they're like they don't understand the question. They're like, I no, I don't know. They converted to Islam. They didn't convert to Islam. They were always Islamic. And you're like, please just like for once be honest. If you don't know, then just say like, I don't know. I don't know. I was told they were always Islamic. Not they always were. Don't worry. No Christians, no Jews. It's like they're brainwashed into believing that any other possibility never existed. And that's dangerous. Like Christians don't always think Christians existed. Jews don't always think Jews existed. Hindus always don't. I mean, I don't know about Hindus, but I think Buddhists actually do because they believe Buddhism is like, eternal or whatever. Not just the God, but like the religion. And those are different. They're based on weird practices and a lot more like, I don't know how to put it. Just, they're not the same type of, religions as like Abrahamic religions or like based on more sensations and weird feelings than, looking at the books and the evidence and the eyewitnesses and being like, okay, I have faith in those people and what they say. And that gives me faith that there is a God and I have faith in that God. It's a lot different than that, which is like just weird. I don't really understand it, but we won't even get into that. But yeah, I don't understand how these people think that their religion is eternal when it says in the Quran that it's not. It says, when you're talking about before Islam, it says, go when you want to learn about the past, when you want to learn about Jesus or the prophets, or you want to learn about, the Old Testament, the Torah prophets, Moses, Abraham, Solomon, David, you go to those books, you go to the Torah, you go to the Gospels, and they say that in the Quran. Later on, they talk crap on the, technically, they don't really talk crap about the Bible or the Torah itself, even though the Torah isn't actually the full Jewish Bible, even though people call it that. It's actually the Tanakh. The Tanakh is the three sets of the Jewish Bible, which is the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, which are 3 sections, and people don't even know that. But the Tanakh and the Gospels, and which is technically not all the New Testament because that's just the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. But with the letters of Paul and Revelations and all that, plus the Gospels and the Tanakh, you can easily see that these things weren't eternal. Like God is eternal, but religion is not. And for us to be so either narcissistic or ignorant to the fact that it wasn't and isn't is kind of odd. It gives us this weird, like, not selfish, that's the best way to put it, self-arrogance, that we are these super important people that have always had this thing, and this thing that we believe in is so eternal, it's so amazing, and it's so perfect, it's so flawless. It's like, no, Christians believe that we are flawed, and Christianity itself is flawed. God is not, Jesus is not, and I'm a Messianic Jew, so I believe in that. Even though I was born a Jew, I believe in Christ. And Jews believe the same thing. We are sinful. We are, the people who wrote the Bible were sinful, but we can come closer to God through building a relationship with him, following our traditions and heritage. That's what they believe. And, there are some Jews who don't actually believe in trying to go to heaven. You won't see that a lot it's kind of weird. It's more liberal Jews that believe that. They were like, no, we want to bring heaven on earth. And other Jews believe, okay, we want to make heaven on earth, but we also want to merge with our creator and go back to heaven. Go to heaven with him. And Ben Shapiro's pointed that out. And there's a lot of other Jews that have pointed that out. But we don't look at religion and the people of our religion as eternal sinless beings. And that's where Islam falls. They see Muhammad as a sinless and errorless person, even though he never called himself God, so he can't be, flawless and have no errors. That's wrong. And the fact that these people believe these kinds of things about their religion, about their prophets, shows how not only arrogant and ignorant they are, but just how they view themselves, really, and how they view themselves and their religion, and how they think that's why they think they're always right and Christianity is wrong, and they're the one that's corrupt because they're willing to say that it was corrupt, not corrupt, but the people, we're corrupted. The people, and the people who wrote the Bible are corrupted. But they're saying, no. The Quran was not written. It's the word of Allah. And it's like, okay, but who wrote that word? They're like, Allah. But it's like, I know, but who wrote it down? And they're like, a person? And they're like, yes, that person is corrupted. Whether or not the Bible is the word of God, that's, I believe it is. But man wrote that word of God. Man is sinful. Man is corrupt. And we can't sit there and say that the man who wrote the Quran is any less corrupt or less sinful than the man who wrote the Bible, whether it's the Tanakh or the Gospels or, the full, Christian Bible. And we can't sit here and say these things and have a straight face when we're unwilling to accept the fact that it's the same for other religions. And they aren't willing to do that. If you're not honest to yourself, then you're not going to be honest to God. It's just unbelievable.
Long time ago, they didn't convert into Islam, she said. They weren't people who worship
one God.
God and someone else.
Could it be that your ancestors from hundreds of years ago were Jews?
This Irish guy is Palestinian? Okay.
Or Christians that can...
I love how they're telling Jews, like, go back to your country. And it's like, okay, does he come with us? Like, yeah, some Jews had a diaspora experience in another country, and I'm sure there are some redheaded Jews in Israel, but very few. When you go to Palestine, all you see is like blue eyes, green eyes, and like the occasional brown eyes. Like, I went there years ago, and like all I saw was just blue and green eyes, and it was crazy. I did not expect to see it. I was actually like straight up shocked how many blonde-haired, blue-eyed, or blonde-haired, green-eyed people there were. It was crazy. It's like 40% of the population has, non-brown eyes or, non-dark eyes. It's crazy. They're hazel, they're green, they're blue. And then they have like light brown hair or blonde hair or even, like this, like curlyish, like strawberry blonde hair. Like that crazy girl who got arrested for terrorism recently. It was the girl who like spit on a Israeli cop and like slapped him in the face while he just stood there like silent and quiet and just let it happen. And her name was like Tamimi Ahed. Yet like this girl looks like more pale than him and has crazy curly hair and freckles, and like that doesn't exist in the Middle East. Like, and there people are saying, oh, that's not right to say. And it's like, but okay, so it's right for you to say that Jews don't belong in Israel because they don't look like they do, but it's not okay for me to say that these people don't belong in Israel or don't belong in Palestine because they don't look like they do. I'm not saying they don't belong. I'm saying that if you say Jews don't belong, then he doesn't either. And that's where the hypocrisy comes in. They're like, no, he's allowed to say that's so racist. And it's like, no, it's not. It's a fact. If you think that Israel people should not look like this, then it shouldn't be that way in Palestine either. I don't care. I think he has a right to be wherever he is. That's his right as a human to live where he wants. And the people who are actually indigenous of that land, the Jews, not the Arabs, the Jews, and maybe the Druze, which are not, I'm not saying Jews, I'm saying Druze, Druze, or the other nomadic tribes who live there, like the Bedouins, they have a right to be there. But like Arabs have no right to be there other than if they are living there, at least ancestral right. Let's put it that way. They have a right to live where they want, but they don't have an ancestral right to the land. Like they can go there, move there legally buy a house, and they have rights to that property, but they don't have a legal right to just go there and be accepted because they want to, without buying property, without having any, money, without coming to benefit something to the community or any of that, or without having some type of, familial connection to the land. And that's the issue. Like they think Jews don't have that, yet they do. And over 70%, 75? I think it's 70%. Over 70% of the Israeli population is Middle Eastern Jews, Sephardic and Mizrahi, which is like Middle Eastern, North African, stuff like that. So in like very Southern Europe. So they're Jews that have lots and lots of Semitic DNA, not just a small portion of it. I'm mixed. I'm Sephardic, Ashkenazi, and then I'm also a mix of other things. My birth dad is Greek and Haitian, so I'm a mix of a lot of stuff. But my Jewish side, I'm 50% Jewish, and then 50% my dad's side, Greek and Haitian. And on my Jewish side, that if you turn that into 100%, let's just take that 50 and turn it into 100, it's 70% Sephardic and then 30% Ashkenazic. And there's lots of people like that over in Israel. Like And the ones who are fully Ashkenazic, it's less than 30% of the Israeli population is actually fully Ashkenazi. And even if they are Ashkenazi, it doesn't mean they don't have a right to be there. It just means that they've been more isolated than all of the other groups of Jews away from other Jews. Like the other people had ways to travel and get through the, empires that they lived in. They had more freedom. The Jews in Europe were locked down and they had to marry into smaller communities, which much less similarity to their own diverse, not diverse, but just less similarity to their race, to their identity, and as a Middle Easterner. And that slowly got torn away from them. Like basically they became less and less and less looking like a Middle Eastern. And eventually all that retained is facial features, their ears, their nose, their eyebrows, sometimes their hair. And that's it. And their hairiness really. But besides that, like all of the other stuff was gone, like their skin tone. I mean, of course, you live for another land and continent for 2,000 years. You no longer have the same skin tone, but it's not like they changed that drastically. The majority of Ashkenazi Jews still have darker hair, brown or black. They still have bushier eyebrows. And yes, there are blonde Jews that are Ashkenazi, but it's not as common as actually blonde Palestinians. And we need to stop arguing about these stupid things and just accept the fact that there are Jews in Israel who are from wherever they want to be. As long as they're Jews, they have a right to the land. And if Palestinians want to live peacefully next to them, they need to accept that. And they need to also accept the fact that there are people in their land that don't belong there either, according to their logic, but yet they accept them. And then they get mad when people call that out. And they're like, no, that's racist. And it's like, it's not racist when you do it, so it's not racist when I do it. And that's how you have to view it, because your logic is trash if not.
Converted to Islam?
هل ممكن أسلافك أجدادك من زمان كانوا مسيحية أو يهود واعتنقوا الإسلام بعدين؟
لا.
No? No.
So you were always Muslim?
This guy thinks he's always Muslim, and he's probably literally from Ireland like less than 100 years ago.
Your ancestors, your family. يعني دايما كانوا مسلمين كل عائلتكم.
Like, not a Semitic feature on the dude. No Semitic ears, not even close to a Semitic nose. Very, very Irish features. Small lips, red hair, very pale skin, constantly receding hairline, very low back hairline here, light colored eyebrows. All of this indicates a very, very, very Irish or Scottish, Northern Scottish person. Yet, he thinks his family has history in this land and has always been Muslim. This is what I'm talking about. Most Jews recognize their history in other lands. There are some who probably don't, just like there's people in every group that don't follow along with the norm. But in Palestine, this is the norm. They completely unaware of their actual history. Whether they family moved there 100 years ago or 50 years ago or 200 years ago, they don't know. They're told that they've always been there, even when there's documentation to prove that they literally came there less than 100 years ago. They don't care, though, because that undermines everything about them. Their identity, who they say they are, their religious beliefs, all of that is undermined by the fact that they're not actually from where they're from.
هيك بنعرف.
This is what we know, yes.
من 100 سنة أو مثلا 200 سنة.
Over from like 100 or 200 years ago.
Okay, and what about before Islam was here?
قبل ما يجي الإسلام هون على فلسطين.
والإسلام كيف دخل على فلسطين؟
When did Islam come to Palestine?
800.
Came in 640, so it's what, 800 years ago? Yeah.
140? I should look this up. I
Really?
forget.
Yeah.
630.
I'm bad. 870?
قبل 870 سنة تقريبا بيجوز. Who has family from 870?
I know, but...
Okay. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah.
It's not about having family from 870 years ago. It's about knowing your history of the land. The Jews know their history. The Muslims know their history. They know that they're from, at least the original Muslims knew their history, that they're from the land of Saudi Arabia. Even the Christians who are not from the land of the Levant know their history as being, going back, 500, 700, 800 years, or even 1,000 years to Europe. And they all know this. The only people who refuse to acknowledge this are Palestinians and some other Muslims. That's it. They're the only ones that refuse to say, I'm actually from this country, or I'm actually from that country, or I'm from that country. They just say, no, I've always been here. I've always been here. My family's always been here. In 200 years, if they've taken over London, they'll say, no, we've always been in London. We've always been in London. And they do this everywhere. If you look at all the rest of the Islamic Empire countries, whether, it's in the Middle East or North Africa or even Central Africa now, they basically, and I'm not kidding, and this is really prevalent in the Middle East, not so much in North Africa, not as much in Central Africa yet, but they say that they've always been there. They say, we controlled all these lands. We were the part of the empires. We did this. We did that. And it's like Arabs, and they always say Jewish supremacy, Zionists or supremacists. Really? The Arab Empire is the biggest colonial expansionist empire to ever exist in human history. They've covered more land than the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, and the Ottoman Empire put together. Why are we sitting here talking about colonialist, expansionist peoples, yet we're refusing to look the horse in the mouth? We're refusing to say that's the person doing it, not the Jews. And it's unbelievably hypocritical. It's unbelievably disingenuous and intellectually dishonest. And I'm tired of it.
Your ancestors, before they were Christian, could they have been Jews?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. See, this girl's a Christian, and she actually understands history. She understands. She's not brainwashed by Islam and Hamas and other people. And she doesn't live in actual Palestine. This one lives in Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe we've been living here for long, and the first religion that was here, it was Judaism. So basically, we might be. I don't know my ancestors, though.
But you don't have any stories or anything in your...
No, not really, but
But even if she doesn't have a story, she's willing to accept the possibility. And that's the important thing. She understands that Christianity was not first. Muslims refuse to accept that. Even though their book, the Quran and the Hadith, say these things to them, they refuse to accept the truths. They refuse to accept Christianity came before Islam. They refuse to accept Judaism was not only the founding cause of their religion, the founding cause of all Abrahamic religions. And without Judaism, there would be no Christianity or Islam. And the fact is these people refuse to look at it. She has intellectual honesty. The rest are completely disingenuous and intellectually dishonest. And this is why these conversations are important, because it exposes the brainwashing and the misinformation that these people are constantly basically just bombarded with by propaganda videos. And we'll go over some of that kind of crap in a minute. The children, and you will be shocked and horrified probably.
Do you have any stories that people in your family, like hundreds of years ago, were Muslim or other than Christian?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But no, I don't know. Actually.
No, but no stories. Okay.
No.
I mean, that's all I can know, right? So I can't. Unless I give you a DNA test.
Yeah, I have to though.
It'd be fun. Oh, tell me the results.
Okay, sure.
Either Jews or Christians that converted to Islam.
هل كانوا أجدادكم مسيحيين أو يهود؟
So this is a Nablus. They're moved a couple times, like during this interview.
وبعدين أسلموا. No? أجدادك أنت. No, they were Muslims.
No, before Islam, what were they?
قبل الإسلام، هل تعرفوا إذا كانوا يهود أو مسيحيين؟ قبل ما يجي الإسلام على فلسطين. Before Islam came to Palestine.
Forever? For a million years? A million years.
See, and they're so ridiculously brainwashed that they think that they've literally been Islamic and Muslim since the beginning of time. And then see, this woman may look Muslim. Look, she's obviously mixed. You can tell not only by the pale of her skin, but the greenish blue, or greenish hazel eyes, and the much more pink, complexion, in her skin compared to him. And this is what I'm talking about. We sit here and we constantly say, oh, these aren't, the Jews aren't native. And it's like, dude, this is a person who probably has darker hair, and she's paler than me. She's more pale than I am. And this is ridiculous. I'm so tired of the stupid arguments that come from people who support this crap and say, oh, the Jews aren't native. And it's like, really? Okay, prove it. And don't just use one DNA test from one Jew that you don't like, which is all I've seen on Twitter. They just post a DNA test of some Israeli politician's son, or I don't even know if it's its son. It's a DNA test. It doesn't even say a name on it. And they're just like, see? And I'm like, how am I supposed to know this belongs to this guy? There's no information. It's a screenshot from someone else that you've literally found on Google and probably Reddit, from Muslim Reddit threads. And you have no actual source. And so I asked for a real source, and they sent me an article from like it was like Islam something today. It was like an article or a news like thing or a blog or whatever for Muslims, and it was like basically they just post like little opinion pieces on a daily basis, and that's what it was. And I was like, that's not evidence. They're like, this is an article. I'm like, no, it's an opinion article. It's not based on facts. There's no information in here other than this guy kind of gleaning what he wants from certain facts. He like takes this and he doesn't accept the truth. He's just like, I like that part, but the stuff that actually makes it so my argument is false, I'm not going to accept that part. And I was just like, that's bullcrap. And he's like, no, you're just not doing it. You're too stupid to read it. I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's just get the full evidence and then go over it. And he's like, nope, and then blocked me. That seems to happen a lot when I post something they don't like. They block me almost immediately.
Okay. Were your ancestors Jews and Christians that converted to Islam?
For an example, just real quick, when the grape and actual attacks happened in Israel on October 7th, people said there was no proof. There was no proof that women got raped. And I said, yes, there's lots of proof that women got raped. And they were like, no, you don't have any pictures, you don't have any videos. So I literally pulled out like actual videos taken. Not only we had pictures and videos from the Hamas terrorists, which I won't post anyway because that's just disgusting. I'm not going to post actual sexual assaults online. But I did post videos of the I don't know if you want to call them first aid because they weren't, or first responders, I guess, or people who were picking and cleaning up the bodies. They found multiple women with mutilated downstairs areas and breasts, and their faces were like burned off in some cases, or their entire torso was just completely torched, and not just a little bit. Like some of them were like completely torched, and their skirts or their shorts were either completely taken off and like left on one leg, kind of on the ankle, or if they were wearing a skirt, like this is multiple of them, had their skirt like shoved up and it was like stuck on their chest and like burned in place by the burning that they had done to them. And their downstairs areas were completely like mutilated. And it was so heartbreaking to see. If anybody actually really doesn't believe me and thinks this is still a lie, you can ask me, and I will literally email you the screenshots or message you on Twitter or whatever, and just let me know. Like I said, I'll leave my email in the description, like always. Yeah, let's just get back into it.
Were your ancestors, like from a long time ago, Jews or Christians before being Muslim?
No, just Muslims.
قبل ما يسلموا كانوا مسيحية أو يهود.
كانوا من الشيعة.
They were Shiites.
Oh, interesting.
See?
From where?
And if they were Shiites, then they're not from this land. Like,
years ago, Jews or Christians that converted to Islam?
هل أسلافك وأجدادك كانوا مسيحية أو يهود اعتنقوا الإسلام لاحقا؟
لا.
No.
again, like, it goes over and over and over.
أسلافك قبل ما يصيروا مسلمين كانوا مسيحية أو يهود؟
No, I don't think so.
Again, and this is the point. They won't refuse to accept it. And people say, no, the Palestinians, they're just the people who converted away from Judaism. Like they're the real natives of that land. They're just the people who converted away from Judaism into Christianity or Islam. And it's like, really? They don't think so. They don't think so. They say, no. People do that in the Middle East, if you know what I mean. If you've been to the Middle East, you'd be like, okay, yeah. No. That's what they say. And they believe that wholeheartedly. Sorry, itchy nose. And it's crazy that we sit here and try to act like we put beliefs on them that they don't even have. We're like, no, they are that. They're definitely that. They're from that land. They converted away from this into this. And it's like, really? Because they don't say that. Why are we saying it when they don't? Why are pro-Palestinians saying it when they don't even put that belief on themselves? Why are we asserting that this is something that's true when they don't even believe it's true? Huh? Any pro-Palestinians watching out there? I doubt it. My channel's new. So, but if you are, what the hell, bro? Why are you putting this stuff on them when they don't? Wake up, dude. Stop being a delusional prick. I hope the people out there that are watching this understand I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the people that go to those marches and scream Intifada, who scream gas the Jews, who scream F the Jews. Screw you, buddy. And you need to wake up and actually read some history, buddy. It's crazy. Let's get on to the next video. Let's get out of this. We can talk about a little more history actually first. So Menotaf seal. Menotaf steel is also known as the Israel steel or the Victory steel. Is a stele. The stele is from Egypt, dated around 1213 to 1203 BC. It actually it talks about a loss that Egypt had at the hands of an Israeli king, an Israelite king, technically, because Israeli is a new word, Israelite king, back in this time. And he lost to a new Israelite king. So this is just at the end of the era of the time when Israel had no kings. I don't know why I'm using quotes, but like, you know, let's just put it like a quote, like you would as a quote, not like saying it's not true. Sorry, confusing. But yeah, so it was the time when Israel had no kings. This is the end of that era. And this is when probably one of their more, like either this could have been a leader, like a general who was called a king by Egypt, or this could have been, it possibly could have been, we don't know. It could have been David. Who knows? Could have been King David. We really don't know if we haven't been able to calculate if this is an accurate depiction of king. Are they just saying a man who led them into battle, who was a leader of a tribe? Then yes, there were individual kings of all those tribes. So it could have been just one of the tribes beat them in battle, but it's more likely that several tribes beat them in battle, and they were referring to one of the kings of those tribes who was a great warrior and was possibly the lead general of those people. And we don't know which one that was because there was just so many. In a short period of time, there was a lot of, shorter lifespans over a couple hundred years. You have a lot of people just going, dying, coming, giving their kinghood or whatever you want to call it to their son, to their relatives. And it's hard to know exactly who was controlling who and who the general is or king was specifically that led the army that defeated the Egyptians. And this talks about, King David and King Solomon, the Balfour Declaration. This is a good thing. You can actually find this. I won't read this off to you guys, but you can find this all on history.com, and just type in early history of Israel, or just type in history of Israel and then history channel and or history.com, and you will find it. Really good. It goes over basically all the quick points, early history of Israel, King Solomon, the Balfour Declaration, which is in the early 1900s. And it talks about re-establishing a country of Israel, a nation of Israel, the conflict between Jews and Arabs and how it really started, Zionist movement, Israeli independence, that war for independence.
Israel. It's the only Jewish nation in the world.
Sorry, that randomly started playing. And just a bunch of other things going on. And it's also good for you to look up. I would look up attacks against Jews by Muslims, and you'll find hundreds. And I just think that's something important that people should see, because it outweighs the attacks that people say Jews have committed against Gaza or against Palestinians by almost 5 times. So it's insane. But yeah, here, this is how children treat Jews when they end up in Gaza. It's an Israeli hostage. It's a young boy who had moved there with his family. I think it turns out he was an adopted child. They had adopted him and they were raising him in Israel with their family. And this boy actually was taken hostage. And according to this, he was mocked and ridiculed.
الشباب مبسوطين على اليهودي قول إيمه
انت يهود الخلفة The children see an Israeli saying mommy for the first time. Yeah. It's disgusting. Let's see how they indoctrinate their kids.
أؤكد لكم يا فخامة الرئيس أننا نربي أطفالنا وأحفادنا وأولادنا على ثقافة السلام.
I heard President Abbas yesterday say that Palestinians teach their children peace. That's unfortunately not true.
حجري صار كلاشنكوف. لماذا ذبحناهم في شوارع بيروت؟ لأجلك يا أبو عمار، لعيونك احنا نموت، بكرة نجيب الثار قائدهم بتابوت. احنا الفتح إعصار للثروة دم ناقوت.
نحارب اليهود ونقتلهم ونقدر عليهم.
إلى حرب تدق الظلمة تزهق روح صهيوني. إلى حرب تدق الظلمة تزهق روح صهيوني. إلى حرب تدق الظلمة تزهق روح صهيوني.
By the way, the people that you're seeing in these videos are now grown up and they are the terrorists that we're fighting. Like, these are the people. Like, look, 2014, like they're, you know, some of these kids are 13, 14, 15 years old. They're now 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And they are the ones, you know, are older, 22, 23, 24. And these are the people we're fighting. This is, 2013 is 10 years ago. 2014 is just almost 10 years ago now, coming up to April 25th. It's almost exactly 10 years ago. And these are the people, these kids who were, 12 years old are now 22 years old. Why are we sitting here acting like, the kids today who have the same hatred, like, aren't going to do the same thing? And it's not because they've witnessed what they believe to be atrocities. It's what they've been told. Like, 99% of the kids in Palestine have never witnessed anything until this most recent conflict. And it's unbelievable that we sit here and act like this is some, like, just horrible thing that just randomly happened to them. And this is caused by the actions of their parents, and now it's caused by the actions of them. Like, these kids are the ones who have caused the most recent attacks, who probably sat there and planned it with Sinwar and the other Hamas leaders. Why are we sitting here acting like all children are innocent when we can obviously see that these people are not innocent? And yes, they've been brainwashed, and that's horrible. And I do not think a child should die ever. And I want to make that perfectly clear. A child never deserves to die unless that child is old enough to understand the consequences of their actions and what they've done. If they have killed someone and they are old enough to understand that, then they deserve to have their just punishments. I do not agree with killing a child just because they were brainwashed into thinking something. But if they were old enough to understand that killing is wrong, even if they were brainwashed and they have a moral center in their heart, even brainwashing can't erase that moral center that God gave you. You understand that killing is wrong unless you are a psychopath. So you deserve your just punishments. Even if you're a psychopath, you still deserve it, because it doesn't matter whether you can understand right or wrong. It's wrong that you killed someone. And unless you are fighting in self-defense or fighting in a retaliatory manner to make sure that your people, your family, or your country is never hurt again, that you shouldn't be doing so. You shouldn't be jumping the gun first. You shouldn't be shooting someone before you know their intentions. If they break into your house, shoot them. If they're outside walking down the sidewalk and you're like, hey, that guy might break into my house, you don't shoot them. The whole view on what's going on in Israel is so completely distorted from reality. All you see is videos on Instagram or, Instagram and Twitter. And yet, that is such a small portion of what's actually going on. An Israeli drone just flew over Gaza and some of the affected areas. And you think the entire area would be flat, but it's not. It's massive areas, markets, people walking down the streets, people driving cars. And yet we are led to believe that that's not possible. It's completely obliterated, basically turned into a parking lot. But we're completely wrong, and we need to stop accepting lies that are told to us just because they're on Twitter, and we think it's now a place for free speech, which means truth. Free speech does not mean truth. Free speech means freedom to lie, and we need to be smart enough to read through people's lies and propaganda and actually be willing to find the truth, even if it means going to sources we might not like. Ground News is a great source. Ground News is is an application that you can get on your phone. It's a website that you can go to. I'll go to it right now so you guys can see it. Really, really great stuff. You can get a subscription that's super cheap. It's like 83 cents. I think if it's a month or a week, very, very, very cheap. You can get a more expensive one. I think it's $1.20, and really, really well. And why am I not logged in already? Whatever. Oh, I am. Okay. And you can see how it registers everything. Basically, it'll tell you, okay, so this is left 33% left. This is 23% right. This is 44% center. And that means like who's covering it. So 33% of the left is covering this, 23% of the right is covering this, and 44% of the center is covering this. And this is how the whole website works. So when you see something, it means like, oh, why is the left covering this so much? Why is the right covering this so much? Why is no one covering this at all? Or why is this story only being covered by one source? Like what's going on? And I mean, just figure, look at this. A Chinese pastor is released after 7 years in prison only to find himself unable to get an ID. And you can see who's covered it, what sources, and you can figure out why maybe other people haven't covered it. And this is the way to get your information. Don't trust people just because they're on Twitter or because they have supposedly have the same values as you. Make sure you do your due diligence and you actually verify and try to, validate everything that you're reading on Twitter before you just accept it as the automatic truth of the day.
إلى حرب تدق الظلمة تزهق روح صهيوني. برافو. شيل سلاحك قاوم وانهب، دمر زلزل احرق واشعل. يا بني صهيونة يا شر البرية يا قرودا همجية يا خنازيرا شقية.
يا بني صهيونة يا شر البرية يا قرود همجية.
قرودا همجية يا خنازيرا شقية.
أعداء الله أبناء الخنازير تصب النساء في الميادين وبين أمة الإسلام والمجاهدين. برافو زقفي.
قد بنيت خطتي على نار الحقد والكراهية التي تملأ قلوب اليهود نحو.
And this is like daily stuff for them, dude. Like this, like they have movies like this, like that. It's just entire movies of talking about how evil Jews are and how they it just really hurts, dude. Like, I don't understand. Like, if this is playing in Israel and it was against Muslims, this would run worldwide on every news network in the world, and they would constantly talk about it for the next 2 months about how racist Israelis are. Yet they're completely do nothing when it's Palestine. This is like one of like hundreds of videos that show this. There's one that just came out recently where it literally, like, it was 2023. It was like November or December or something like that, and they were playing these exact same things, had the exact same shows that you see like right here and right where is it, right? Oh, it's like the weird yellow background or whatever. That one.
محمد وأتباعه.
إن عدونا صهيون شيطان له ذيل وأن عدونا صهيون شيطان له ذيل وأن عدونا صهيون شيطان له ذيل
وعدونا صهيون شيطان له ذيل. شكرا كثير لك يارا، أنا بحبها هاي كثير كثير القصيدة.
احنا بدنا نقول إنه فلسطين موجودة وفلسطين رح ترجع وما في إشي اسمه إسرائيل.
برافو عليك.
Yeah. So who do you think's lying? Does this guy want peace, or does this guy telling the truth when he says they definitely don't want peace? They're not teaching peace. They're not teaching their kids peaceful, like they said. Because I think that's Mahmoud Abbas, if I remember correctly, is a piece of crap. Just a liar. Here's more proof how they indoctrinate their children. That's a real knife, by the way.
الشباب بيطبش علينا حجار يا حاج.
الناس
So she's replying. He's saying, as an Israeli, he's like, the Palestinian youth are running after us Israelis with knives. And she's like, so what? And he'll be like, oh, and now the Israelis are firing on us with tank shells. So what? That's basically what she's doing. And obviously you can tell this girl's like 5 years old. She doesn't know what she's doing, probably. And if she does, I mean, what little she does know, she thinks she's just making her dad proud and hatred is okay. And that's because he's taught it. Like, if this was in America and people were saying like these things about, Jews or blacks or Hispanics or anybody except whites, I mean, they'd probably get away with that. They'd be like, this is wrong. This would be on every news channel about how some parent is brainwashing their child to stab kids and stab adults and stab people, just an entire race. This is wrong. And they'll be like, what? They're persecuted. And it's like, so that wouldn't fall for that in this country. Like, if you said that in this country, be like, they're a persecuted race. Like, they can say that about other races. Like, no, they can't. If a Jew said this about black people, if a black person said this about Jews, either way, it would go wrong and it'd be all over the news for a month and the person would literally be fired and blackmailed from everything. Why are we acting like this is some normal thing that just because it's the Middle East, we treat them with puppy gloves or whatever you want to call it, just little fuzzy little gloves where they don't get affected by anything we say or do. They're not worthy of looking at in the same light as everyone else, especially Israelis, because Israelis somehow are viewed as Westerners. So we view them in this negative light. And everything they do is put under a microscope. But the Middle East, nothing is put under a microscope because we don't view them as human, which is disgusting. They are human. And that's why I view their actions as disgusting. It's disgusting for people to sit here and say that these people's actions are not disgusting because it shows how hypocritical you are. And it shows how racist you are because you don't actually believe these people to have full human capabilities, to have full control of their actions and their conscience and their lives and just any of that. You believe that they're not fully able to assert themselves in life. And that's racist. It's disgusting. It's like you're viewing them as not fully human. And whoever does that is wrong. And that's why we need to call out this crap. We shouldn't just ignore it because it's not comfortable.
مهند الحلب بطعنا يا حاج فادي علون بطعن فينا يا حاج فوفو ايش بتقولي لشباب الضفة?
What do you say to the Palestinian youth in the West Bank? Stab, 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 stab. Like, they're obviously talking about Jews. Yeah. And that's just one of 1,000. I could go through like 1,000 of these, like I said, but we'll have to do that over time. I don't have that much time. Hamas teaches children to shoot Jews, and I think it also teaches them to stone Jews, if I remember correctly.
لما يجي عندكم اضربهم بوكس خلي وجهه بنضاره
والله عشان نحرر فلسطين.
So racist.
صديقي طيب على العموم يا روان انا بقول له يمسك حجر ولما يجي اليهود عنده يمسكوا.
You'll see this bee like everywhere, like on Palestinian TV. This bee and then this other weird character. There's two of them. There's a mouse, but it doesn't look like Mickey Mouse. It's called Farfur, and it's like super racist, obviously. And then there's another one that's just a giant head that's like, it's supposed to look like a person, but it's just like a giant, like fake round head like that. And those are the three that you'll see most often on Palestinian TV.
طبعا الجيران اليهوديين عادي
يطبش عليهم
لو كانوا يهود يعني جيرانه او صهاينة عادي. طيب ليش حابة تصير شرطية؟ ليش؟ زي مين؟ زي عمه. مين عمه؟ أحمد. هو شرطي؟ شو بيسوي طب الشرطي؟
I think it's hilarious. So every time they have kids on their shows, they go for the most like non-white looking people. They're like, get the dark-haired kids on here. Don't get the blonde-haired, blue-eyed ones. We can't have them on TV. It'll make us look bad. Like, I've never seen one of those kids on the shows, but then when you go there or you see pictures of Palestine, you're like, why are there so many blonde kids?
بس الحرامي واللي بيعمل مشاكل
وبتخي اليهود صح؟ انت بدك تصيري زيه؟
إن شاء الله لما تكبري.
لما تدخل يهود.
كلهم؟ كلهم؟ طيب.
Yeah, there you go. I want to shoot Jews, all of them. We're going to go over some of the other stuff in this
7th of October.
Well, then we'll finish off. Let's just watch this, get a little.
The largest and deadliest escalation of violence in decades.
The last 100 days have seen the long-running conflict in the Middle East erupt in a horrific frenzy of violence.
The United States stands with Israel against this terrorism.
300 people were killed after a strike on a hospital in central Gaza.
The intensity of the war has been matched by the level of bitterness and vitriol here at home.
American Jews have rallied across the US in support of Palestine.
Wake up, guys!
Israel is rocked by widespread protests.
October the 7th was a setup.
Would you keep Hamas in power?
It's not up to you.
What's your opinion?
You are a mother racist.
Please shut up.
People don't know who to trust, which facts to believe, and the only thing that everyone agrees on is they have no faith in the mainstream media.
We are coming away from this mainstream media.
You clearly twist the facts.
That's why I'm here in the heart of London to...
What the hell happened? Of course, it's just a random ad. Why do I have ads? Of course we have ads. Sorry guys. My for some reason I started using my account for my channel for some reason, which I don't have premium on that one. So now we're good. We're good. Where was I?
Speak directly to the people involved and show you what's actually happening on the ground. So here we are, third video that we're doing from the protest. Today is supposed to be absolutely giant. So we will see, this is of course London Bridge, an iconic place here in the central London. You can see Tower Bridge over there behind us. And we're heading to the protest, which is going to start at Bank, just ahead of us up there. And we will see how big it is and what's going on. Of course, we'll talk to people and find out why they're here and what they're up to. Thank you very much. Perfect. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care.
All right. This is obviously day 2 of the US and the UK bombing the Houthi militias who've been attacking commercial vessels in the Red Sea. And this is a front page of the Socialist Worker. In the top right there, it says, West threatens to ignite a wider war in the Middle East. The United States and Britain are targeting the Yemeni Houthi militia, which is a sign that imperialism is entering an even more vicious phase. So
it's not what they believe at all.
Freedom for Palestine. Hey, do you want to sign? Brilliant. Thank you so much.
God, these people are dumb.
Come sign if you agree. Palestine must be free. Say no to Israeli apartheid. Say no to genocide.
What brings you here today?
The genocide in Gaza of the Palestinian people.
What does your sign say?
It says, well, my friend did this, so it's only Israel can genocide.
Israel, it says, right?
Israel. That was.
Why do you call it Israel?
I didn't make this placard actually, but someone just handed it to me. But I've heard it.
And that's ridiculous. And you'll see this at every protest. Like, I didn't make the sign. And it's like, then why the hell are you holding it? Do you believe in it? And then when you confront them about it, like, why does it say that? And they're like, I didn't write it. And you're like, but why do you hold it then? You're obviously supporting it. Like, I didn't write it. I don't know. I don't support it. I mean, I don't know. No comment. And you're like, are you kidding me? So you're willing to stand up and hold a sign that's obviously definitely offensive and probably not okay, yet you're willing to say that, but you're not willing to, you're not willing to admit, you're willing to hold it, but you're not willing to say that, yeah, hey, I support that. And that just shows you're a disingenuous prick because you obviously support it and you probably made it even.
Used before that.
Yeah, and I hear people saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Do you subscribe to that view?
Yeah, kind of. With free, where everyone could be free in that land, sort of together. So.
And how would that happen?
Where everyone could live as equals.
How?
So yeah, ending apartheid.
There is no apartheid.
And how would that come about? What needs to happen, do you think, in your opinion, for that to happen?
I think people realising that everyone's equal So I'd be here if...
So there's over 2.7 million Arabs who live in Israel. Arab Muslims, most of them are Arab Muslims, not all are Muslims, but Arabs who live in Israel. Some of them identify as Palestinian, and they're perfectly fine living there. They have healthcare. They have, many went to college. They have jobs. They have homes. The homelessness is so much better there than it is almost anywhere in what we consider Western countries, which technically aren't a Western country. You see that if you go there. But Western democracies, let's put it that way, because they're not culturally, they're not like us. And we can tell they actually help their people there. They help their homeless, they help their sick, they help their needy. They don't have all this crappy socialist healthcare that the government just hands out to people and then never sees to care about any of them. And that's the problem with socialist healthcare. It may sound fun. Everybody gets healthcare, yay! Except for everybody's equal. Yeah, cool. Everybody's equally dumb. Everybody's equally poor. Everybody's equally unhealthy, because it takes 9 hours to get to a hospital to get stitches, even though you're bleeding out in the frickin' waiting room. I was puking up blood in Philadelphia when I was there, when I lived there a while back, and I had state healthcare, socialist healthcare, and I was in a hospital puking up blood, fainted 3 times, hit my head once, had a concussion. All of that, I was there for 8 hours, almost 9 hours. And they got so mad that I kept dry heaving and puking up bile. They literally gave me a new tub and pushed me in the bathroom and said, "We'll come get you when we're ready." And they locked the bathroom with a key, and then I was the only one who could let myself out, so no one else could get in, and not even a staff member unless they had the key. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" Sorry for my language, but are you kidding me? You just locked me in a bathroom because you didn't want people to see me puking because you're unwilling to go take me back? When they took a woman back who had a broken tooth and a busted lip. I was like, dude, I'm bleeding from the inside. I found out it was poisoned. My body was rapidly dehydrating itself because of the poison. So I was just my whole body was basically shutting down. And I'd been poisoned by basically contaminated food that had acetone in it. And it was destroying me. And they didn't give a shit, dude. They're like, "Oh, it's probably a drug reaction." I'm like, "I'm not on drugs, dude. Just give me, what do I have to do to tell you this isn't some drug reaction? This is I didn't take a pill. I didn't take drugs. I didn't, do anything. I ate food and now I'm here. Can you tell me why I'm here now?" And they just didn't tell me until way later. They're like, "Okay, we think you said you were eating at this place." And I was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, we called them and they said they had another person say that they spilled acetone onto something, and they were told that it was thrown away, and I was just like, ugh. Okay. And I guess it soaked the items, and then they cut them up, cooked them, and then gave them to people. So I'm eating heated up acetone, even though a lot of it had dissolved into the air. I ate enough of it where it basically almost killed me. And why should we trust people that trust this crap? You don't even understand what's going on in the Middle East. You think socialism and apartheid and all, you think apartheid exists in Israel. It doesn't. You think socialism is a good platform for the world. It's not. Why are you even talking? It hurts me.
If this was happening to Israelis, I'd feel exactly the same. If Israelis were being genocided, for example.
And what did you...
They are.
What do you think of what happened on October 7th? How does that play into all this?
Yeah, I think it's possibly a false flag event.
What the?
It's possibly, I think there's clear evidence that...
there is no clear evidence.
Israel is partly responsible for the formation of Hamas.
Nope.
And I think there was clear evidence.
Hamas formed itself out of hatred for the Palestinian Authority. They existed in the West Bank, and they hated the Palestinian Authority, and the Palestinian Authority hated them. They're much more extreme than the Palestinian Authority. I don't like the Palestinian Authority. They're also terrorists. But these people, Hamas was they were like ISIS. They were the more extreme of all the groups. And they did not want anything to do with Palestinian Authority. And Palestinian Authority wanted them gone because technically a lot of the Palestinians actually supported Hamas more than the Palestinian Authority. And they were worried that they were going to lose an election if Hamas didn't get out of there. And today they would probably lose an election to Hamas if they did a vote. And that's according to multiple different sources. So they were like, okay, go have that land and you can govern that. And so they did. And they formed themselves into a real not just a tiny terrorist group, but a real governmental terrorist group, basically a governmental organization mixed with a terrorist group as a military wing. And that didn't have anything to do with Israel. It was completely based on the hatred for the Palestinian Authority.
That Israel had been warned that this attack was coming.
No, it wasn't.
Sorry, can you just turn your banner? I want to take a picture of it.
God, these people are scumbags.
Just before Israel responded.
That I hadn't heard before, about what the Prophet Muhammad said about equality and about women and so on. And I was interested in particularly the last one about terrorism. And it says that terrorism in the Quran, killing of innocent is compared to killing the whole world, all of mankind.
Yeah, but the thing is what's innocent to the Muslims? Infidels are not innocent. Adulterers are not innocent. Converts, apostates, also known as, are not innocent. Jews, Christians are not innocent. People who refuse to convert or not submit to the Islamic regime are not innocent. Women who do not submit to their husband are not innocent. Children who do not submit to their parents are not innocent. Children who refuse to be sold into, as an arranged marriage are not innocent. So all of these people who are obviously innocent of everything are considered not innocent. That's bullshit. Don't believe their stupid tactics. They are using disinformation and what is called taqiyya. Taqiyya is what's called Islamic deception, where in the Quran and in the Hadith, it is okayed by Muhammad and the other Islamic scholars that you can use deception to trick people into accepting Islam or accepting its rule or its laws. And you can look this up, taqiyya, Taqiyah, taqiyya. And it is crazy. Like, it's basically, we lie to you, but it's because we want you to believe our lies so that we can continue with our agenda. And that's not basically, that is it. It's in Islam, the Muslim they believe they have a right to lie to you, to continue doing what they want, to continue their agenda, to continue gaining control of a country, to continue pushing Islam on non-Islamic people, to continue to try to convert Christians and Jews, or to continue to persecute people. This is their belief system. This is a rule that is fundamental to everything about Islam, and almost no one knows about it. I mean, like, people who are educated on Islam, like me and others, know about it, but not a lot of people.
Can you tell us more about that?
So in essence, Islam does not allow the killing of innocents under any circumstances.
Like I said, what is innocent?
In battlefield, in Surah 9 verse 5, often misquoted by Islamophobes to somehow stipulate that Islam allows the killing of innocents, when it doesn't. It does. When you are in a battlefield and your enemy is coming to you, then in self-defense you have to...
Okay, he's actually wrong. It does not say that.
Fight back, which is a given in any form of...
Yeah, well, in war you would accept that, of course. October 7th, was that a terrorist attack in your opinion?
So October 7th, these are many responses given to that. I mean, we have to go back to 1917, 1948, 1967. Yeah. The intricate involvement of the historical events which have led up to these.
In 1917, there was the majority Jewish population. It wasn't until 1925 that the Arabs outnumbered the Jews. And then it happened again. The Jews started outnumbering the Arabs after the Arabs kicked out all of the Jews out of the land of out of their countries. But Morocco kicked out 240,000 Jews. Iraq? Iraq kicked out, I think, 140,000 Jews. Libya kicked out, I think it was 38,000. Yemen kicked out, I think, 45,000. Saudi Arabia kicked out, I think, like 65,000. And if you look at, like, there, if you want, I will, or you can just type in, like, ethnic cleansing of Jews from Arab lands. And you'll see it happen right before the so-called Nakba, when the Israelis, after the war, expelled the Arabs who fought against them. And you may think that's awful, but they kicked out people who tried to kill them. While with the Jews, they were kicked out, this is before the war, before any fighting had gone down. They were kicked out because they were Jews and because Israel had started to come into agreement that they were going to get their own country with the British, who controlled the British Mandate of Palestine. Eventually, they were actually supposed to get the first country before any of the Muslims, before any of the Arabs. But they knew that they would have to placate the Arabs. The British knew they'd have to placate the Arabs before they gave anything to the Israelis. Eventually, the British backed out. They backed out of the agreement and said, we're not going to do it unless the people who who you were gonna split the land with take the agreement. And they said, okay, fine, whatever. And they said, you know what? We're going to do it ourselves then. And they declared independence and they kicked the British out. And then after that, the Arabs attacked. And before that happened, they had kicked out all those Jews, 800,000 Jews total. And all of those Jews ended up in Israel. And they were immediately given citizenship, unlike with the Palestinian refugees who were kicked out after they fought against Israel. And they were, in Jordan and other areas, they were used as refugees, as pawns and political tools to be used to fight against Israel and to blame Israel for problems, instead of just being, you know what, hey man, we're going to give you full rights. You're going to be able to go to college. You're going to be able to do this. You're going to get, you're going to be able to pay taxes and get money from, like benefits from the taxes, and we're going to make you a citizen. No, they said, no. You can't do that. Like if you go to Lebanon right now, Palestinian refugees are not allowed to go to college. They're not allowed to go to, it's like, I think even mosques, not all mosques, but some mosques. They're not allowed to go to, like Islamic training, for becoming an imam. They can't do any of that stuff. Like they're not allowed to, I think, even go to the same regular high school, grade schools, high school and middle school as other Lebanon Muslim students. And it's insane. Like you want to talk about apartheid? Go to Syria, go to Lebanon, go to Yemen, where Palestine, go to Jordan, where Palestinian refugees are actually treated in apartheid. You go to Israel, Palestinians live free among Israelis, doing whatever they want, living a great life, having businesses, voting, being in the Knesset, which is the parliament, or the Senate, basically, having positions of power, literally sending a former prime minister to prison. Like, how is it that somehow that's apartheid, but the countries who won't even let them be in government, go to college, go to school, be part of, Islamic, become an Islamic leader, none of that stuff. They aren't allowed to do any of that, but that's not apartheid. Go screw yourself.
These events that have occurred. So it's just a frustration on overboiling.
But you said it's forbidden to kill innocents.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, it's forbidden to kill innocents.
But they did, right?
Well, that is what an understanding is given. There are different understandings. There is
oh, really? Well, what's your understanding?
Well, from other sources that I've read, some people are of the opinion that factions of Hamas are in with the Israelis, giving them the pretext to do their acts. Others...
I'm just giving you a thing. You're giving your view. I'm giving my view.
Well, let him finish and I'll talk to you. Yes. No, stick around. I want to talk to you as well.
Yeah, okay. So, because that is just based upon certain factions. There are factions within them who said we had nothing to do with it.
I'm a Hindu, non-practicing. I do support Israel on this. You've got a right to defend. I see all the channels. I listen to people. They're delusional, unfortunately. People have a right to respond. There are only 50 million Jews in the world, There are 2 billion Muslims.
I want to make sure that he understands. Like, he didn't say 50 million. He said 15 million. And that's not even accurate. There are 2 million converts, which is cool. I'm fine with that. I love them. They're great. They're Jews to me. But if you want to go to genetic Jewish, like people who were born a Jew through matrilineal law, it's, who their mother was a Jew or their grandmother was a Jew, so on and so on. That 13 million. So 0.2% of the world population, less than 2% of the US population, and yet we're somehow controlling the world, the media, the everything. And it's like, dude, Jews are hyper successful. It's not our fault we're hyper successful. I'm not, one of those super hyper successful Jews. Ridiculous, man. I've had a very ridiculous life, and I'm trying to build what I want right now. Maybe that's the Haitian in me. Maybe that's why I'm not so successful with a Greek. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, you can't sit here and paint us as a monolith. I'm not some super hyper successful Jew. I'm an adopted kid who grew up in a non-Jewish family because I was separated from my family. My mother tried to kill me behind my father's back. I was put into adoption before he could ever get me. And I lived through a life of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, homelessness. I did drugs. I sold drugs. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm going to be honest with you guys as much as I can. And people sit here and they act like we're a monolith. We're not. Jews are not a monolith, bro. Every person in this world goes through something different. Black people are not a monolith. Jews are not a monolith. Hindus are not a monolith. Nobody is a monolith, and we need to stop looking at each other like that and judging each other based on collective characteristics or collective views or collective responsibilities. It's ridiculous. Like, no one is collectively responsible for slavery. No one is collectively responsible for who controls the world. No one is collectively responsible for anything. Sorry, my phone went off, if you can hear that. My message notification thing is this is Donald Trump, and I endorse this message. I love that. That's great. You can actually get it on Zedge on the Google Play Store or the Apple iStore. Zedge, Zedge. Great ringtones, notifications, sounds, wallpapers. If you want to go there, do that. This isn't a sponsorship. I'm just trying to, let you guys know a couple companies I like during this. Give you something you can go find. They have great Trump ringtones, and they have that really funny Beans and Bologna song from YouTube. I love it. I think it's hilarious. It's so damn funny. It's my ringtone, my call ringtone. But yeah, so this guy, he knows what he's talking about, man. He's like, hey, man, the Jews are completely underrepresented in this world. So where they do have a home, like the U.S., a little bit of Britain and Israel, they're going to be overrepresented in some areas. You know why? Because that's the only place they have. White people exist all over Europe, all over, Canada, all over South America, even all over North America, all over South Africa. Yet Jews are not like that. Jews have small sections of countries where they exist. And yes, they exist in a lot of those countries and continents, but they're in very tiny itty bitty groups, and they get a magnifying glass gets put on them because of the word Jew. And we need to stop doing this. We need to stop doing it to anybody, bro. Like, if you commit a crime, put the magnifying glass on them. But if not, stop trying to view all of those. I mean, at least the person, not the group. If someone committed a crime, put the magnifying glass on the person, not the group. If a group committed a crime, I don't understand how it's really possible, because that, what you could be considering the group is not the group. It's a group. And just because, 5 or 6 Jews or even 100 or 200 or 500 Jews commit a crime, it's not the other, 14,900,000 and, whatever. It's just ridiculous. Like, why do we have to act like all of this crap? All of this crap is just something that we have to be so polarized about. Why isn't it we just can't look at these situations and be like, you know what? I understand what's being said, and I actually agree, or I disagree. Not, oh, they're evil. Oh, they're this, they're that. And it's like, do you have proof? Have you ever seen a video, like an actual video, like, like something that you can verify that's true, not just a video you saw on Twitter? Because all of those are misconstrued. They're all misinfo. They're all leading you on to believe things are worse than they are. And that's what the world does. People make content to make things seem more crazy than they are on both sides of the aisle. So why is it that when the side that you don't like does it, you say, oh, they're just exaggerating. But then when your side does it, you're like, no, they're not exaggerating. They're under exaggerating. Bullshit. Be a fucking man. Be a woman and just nut up. Stop acting like your side is the only side that's ever victimized. And that's what both sides need to frickin' do. They need to man up, woman up, whatever you want to say, and stop acting like victims about everything. Like, yes, if someone's going through something, victim, that makes them a victim, cool. But I would rather be a survivor than a victim. I'm not a victim of my sexual or physical abuse. I'm a victim of nothing other than my own desires and my own choices. That's how everyone is. Unless they are currently under something, like if they're currently being sex trafficked, they're a victim of sex trafficking. But once that sex trafficker frees them or they're freed from them, they are no longer a victim of sex trafficking. They are a survivor of sex trafficking. That's how you look at yourself in the world. You're not a victim of rape. You are a survivor of it. That's how people who succeed move on. There are no victims of slavery today. There are peoples who are descendants of the survivors of slavery, because if they died, they wouldn't have any descendants. So you are a descendant of the people who survived it, who had the positive outcome, at least in the end, and you're a descendant of that positive outcome. Stop complaining. Stop victimizing yourself. Do your best to say, hey, you know what? Let's stop polarizing each other so much, and let's just focus on the facts. Let's focus on something that can bring us together, and that is talking about what makes us the same, not what makes us hate each other so much.
I mean, what is a ratio dude, mate? You know, there's a lot of bullshit going on, yeah? You know?
Very interesting point. And are you here for the protest?
I'm here for the protest to see what's going on. I've heard there's a lot of Hamas supporters here, you know?
Who did you hear that from?
Oh, I've heard it from a lot of YouTube apostate channels, you know? They come here, infiltrate, you know, I want to see if it's true or not, you see? Yeah? I mean, look, I'm a Hindu. You know, a Hindu temple was attacked last week by a Muslim guy in Wembley. You know, we're a very peaceful, successful community, far more than the Muslims, yeah? You know, you've got Prime Minister's fucking Hindu, mate, you know? So we don't get involved. Only people like me will get involved if I feel that we're being attacked as well. You know, the Jews are attacked.
Do you feel that Hindus are being attacked in the UK?
We are now, huh? Because they're afraid.
I mean, they were being attacked just not that long ago. It was like, what was it, a year and a half ago, that they had like Hindus, if you call it temples, churches, whatever, were being burned down left and right by Muslims. There was like 3 of them within a span of like 2 months. It was crazy, and they went up quick. Like someone was really trying to burn them down. Like it was crazy, and then they blamed it on like just a couple Muslim kids, even though it turned out to be an entire network of people who were trying to terrorize not just Hindus, but Christians as well. They even attempted to burn down a church, but they were caught before they could actually set the gasoline on fire. And it's like, no one wants to ever talk about this crap. They just want to ignore it. Like, no, don't say that. It's Islamophobic. And it's like, no, it's not Islamophobic. It's pointing out the truth. Like, if you have a problem with the truth, that's fine. I don't care. But don't tell me that it's not the truth. Like, if you don't believe it, prove it to me. Like, if I don't believe what you say, I do my best to look at it, evaluate the evidence, present my own evidence to prove the contrary, and then move forward. If you don't have the ability to do that, then don't criticize me. Like, that's what I tell people on Twitter. That's what I tell people on all social media. I tell them, like, hey, this video is fake. Look, there's 70 people filming. They literally say the word action in Arabic, and then they start acting like they throw themselves on whatever person. They start crying, and then like literally one of the cameras that's been filming the entire time and didn't just wait for the action call, literally catches it all, and then somehow is stupid enough to post it, and you can even see all this. And then you can see it from different angles in another video where someone else, there are literally people pointing and laughing at the person who's like, that's crazy. You can see girls giggling in the background, like, people sitting under umbrellas and studio lights. And it's like, how can you sit here and tell me that's real? How is it okay for them to lie to everybody, but it's not okay for, the Israelis to show pictures of kidnapped children? Like, it's just BS. And we need to have this intellectual honesty to discuss back and forth. If we don't have intellectual honesty, we don't have, if we're disingenuous, if we're not actually coming at this conversation from an honest point of view, from a respectful point of view, and in a way that shows that you actually want to engage with people, and you're not just here to stoke hate and just poke the bear, basically, then there's no point in talking if you're not going to be honest, if you're not going to be there to actually engage in a fruitful way.
They're not afraid of us, they're jealous of us, of our success. We don't have any.
Hindus are actually very successful, and they're very successful. It's crazy, and they're same in the U.S.
It's like, there are 10,000 Muslims in prison. Is people aware of this? Go and Google it.
85% of the Muslims, 85% of the people who've been arrested for attempted sex crimes against children or sex crimes against children in the UK over the last 6 months have been Muslim. What's crazy is like 40% of them have the name Mohammed.
It's all there. Pedos, rapists, terrorists. There's only 0.4% of Hindus in prison for minor crimes like tax evasion. We're not an aggressive species unless we're pushed.
Have you been here before to these protests in the past? And what did you see? What did you experience?
Well, I've been...
I don't agree with his use of the word species, but I get what he's trying to say. Maybe he just didn't mean it in the more kind of, I guess you'd say just the more extreme way, but he probably just said it because he believes that, there's a difference between the way that the culture of Muslims and Hindus is, and I can understand that. They have a very long history, just like the Jews and the Muslims. Not as long, but just as violent. Look at India. The Muslims attacked the Jews, the Muslims attacked the Hindus attacked the Muslims. It was constantly back and forth. They murdered each other.
but it's quite self-explanatory. It needs to be.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, isn't it? Because I guess what I mean is, how would that come about? What would happen to the Israelis, etc.?
I don't.
Like
I'm trying to think of how to word it. Isn't it just as self-explanatory as the area of land? It's Palestine's land.
Yeah.
Nope.
So when you say Palestine, which bit do you mean?
Yeah, the Gaza Strip.
They have control of the Gaza Strip. They have control of the West Bank. Why is it not like they're talking about from the river to the sea, the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea? Gaza's down here, West Bank's over here. This is all Israel. So this whole river, all the way to the sea, all that land, they want it to be Palestine. These people are so dumb, such just brainwashed NPCs. Wave the flag. Wave the flag. Palestine will be free. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. Long live the Intifada. And it's like, are you kidding me? Are you just that much of an idiot? You don't even realize what Intifada means? It literally means violent religious rebellion against non-Muslims. Stupid.
The West Bank.
West Bank?
Yeah.
That's it?
I don't know. Is there another
I thought it was self-explanatory. I'm getting confused. I thought it was self-explanatory. What about either of you?
Bullshit question.
It's a bullshit question. Why? Well, tell me, why is it bullshit?
I'm not fucking getting involved in this, but it's so like.
The little condom over here is mad.
No, it's it's
Just the tip. Sorry, just the tip condom.
really inflammatory.
Asking what that sign means.
Yeah.
Is inflammatory. Why is that?
I'm not getting involved.
Okay. All right. I didn't say anything. I was just asking what it meant.
Oh.
Do you agree with the sign?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, of course.
See, their beanies look normal, but I don't know why that orange guy just looked like a condom not put on properly.
What does it mean to you?
Palestinians to be free, you know?
Well, it says Palestine, so I was asking them which bit of the area.
Yeah, the people that are being oppressed, for them to be free, you know?
Yeah. Where,
Gaza,
though?
West Bank, them people to be free, yeah.
Gaza and West Bank.
Yeah, all Palestinians in general, you know, because we know that what's going on. All of them are being oppressed, so for them to be free, you know, it's nothing, you know, it's clear as day, you know?
Yeah. Well, I was just asking them which bit of the land they mean, because some people mean all of the land, including the bit where Israel is now, and that's why there's some debate about, you know, what that means.
The main message is Palestinians that are being oppressed, for them to be free, you know, and for everyone to live in harmony, regardless of your religion or whatever it is, because...
I love how they say all this stuff, but they don't mean it. They don't expect it to happen, and they know it won't happen. Like, if they think it will happen, then they're just brainwashed idiots who've never been to Palestine, who've never seen the people of Palestine, who've never watched the videos I showed you with children talking about how they'll murder Jews. Like, these people are just completely uneducated, and it drives me up a wall.
Historically speaking, we say Muslims, Jews, Christians have been living there for centuries, you know, living in good peace. Problem, you know.
Good peace. They've been slaughtering each other for the last 1,500 years. Why are you acting like this is like something that's just some new thing? Since the invention of Islam, there has never been peace in the region. Now, like even before that, there was rarely peace. I mean, constantly people tried to conquer the land and take it from the Jews. So there's rarely been peace anywhere in the world, really. But that land had a good amount of peace until the Roman Empire. And then it had a good amount of peace even under the Roman Empire after they kind of fully took control, even though I don't agree with that. They did have a good amount of peace all the way until Islam came about again. So it was like 600 freaking years of peace until Islam. Like, why? Why is it that no one is willing to look at that with honest eyes and say, okay, well, what's the thing that's not normal here? And you're like, okay, or what's the new thing? What's the different thing? And you're like, that's Islam. Okay, so Islam's the problem. Islam's the issue. And then it continues and continues and continues and continues and continues and keeps going and going and going and going until they just conquer all the countries around them and keep doing that and go into Africa, go into Europe, come out of Europe, go back into Europe again, come out of Europe again. They're locked into the Middle East this time. They go further into Russia because they want to go, then they go further into Asia. Why is it that we look at nothing that they do, but we look at everything that the West does and Israel does? It's bullcrap. These people are not honest. They don't know the truth.
History has not started October 7th. No, you know, we have to see the real origin of this was, as I said, 75 years ago.
No, the real origin of this goes back over 2,000 years ago, buddy.
Obviously, I'm not as educated on this topic.
Obviously.
But because what I see now is this whole issue is being portrayed as if civilization and history started from October 7th and onwards. But no, that's not the real, that's only aspect. The whole issue...
I mean, when you talk to people about what, let's say, from the river to the sea means, a lot of them don't really, we had one group that said it was self-explanatory, and when I asked them to explain it, it didn't really happen. The other thing I noticed straight away is the people we've talked to so far, whenever you ask them about October 7th, most of them, there are exceptions, but most of them basically intimate that they don't think that it really happened, or if it did, it was caused by Israel working with Hamas or some kind of false flag operation or whatever. Which is, one of the big challenges of the modern world is everyone's got their own information. Everyone has their own facts, and if everyone's got their own facts, it's very difficult to understand how you're ever going to reach some kind of mutual understanding or agreement about the way that things are. So we'll carry on speaking to people and find out what else they think. Rishi Sunak is apparently wanted for genocide, so watch out, mate, they're coming. So we're approaching St. Paul's, which is just up there, St. Paul's Cathedral. Out of fucking Gaza and leave the Palestinians alone, you bastards.
My one sentence would be, please, 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 stop bombing the little children.
For peace. Build a new workers' party, a socialist alternative to Sunak and Starmer.
Occupation of Palestine.
From which river to which sea?
River Jordan.
From the Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, yeah. So does that mean that all of Israel should be, what is now Israel, should be Palestine, in your opinion?
No, I personally don't
Then
think
don't
that.
say that.
I think there's, I'm
Then don't say that.
definitely not the person to talk to about this, but I know that there's multiple strategies that people have come up with, like a two-state solution or one-state solution.
Yes, but they don't want a two-state solution. Their official position is no recognition, no negotiation, no peace. They called it the three no's. It was given to the Israeli people in 1967 after the Six-Day War. And they were told they will never get recognition, they will never get a negotiation, and they will never get peace. The negotiation part was obviously a lie, but the other two have still been followed through with. They do not recognize Israel as an actual country that is not occupying, and they are unwilling to come to a true peace agreement. Even when they say they are, they don't follow through with it. And we should know this. The Israeli people are not the people. The government is stupid. They need to realize that there is no doing any business with these people. If they tell you they're not going to accept you and they're never going to have peace with you, you should take that as a serious answer and stop saying, maybe this time they're going to be peaceful. Maybe this time they're going to be peaceful. Maybe next time they're going to be peaceful. How about the time after that? And the time after that? The time after that? Go screw yourself. If you think that, you need to get the hell out of your position and give it to someone who's actually going to do your job, because they are never going to be peaceful until the people who believe that shit are no longer in power.
I think ideally I would like to see one multi-faith state that is neither Israel nor Palestine.
Which shows that young people are more likely to support Palestine than Israel in this conflict. All right, so those are the first two.
This reminds me of a survey. I don't know if you want to call it a survey or just a study. I guess the best way to put it, study that was done by, I think it was like when that company was at 3850 or whatever, the poll company. Can never remember the damn name. 3850 or whatever counters the presidential polls and does other polls. Anyways, they did a poll on who is more commonly found to believe that the Holocaust is a myth. 18 to 29-year-olds, 40% of them think the Holocaust is a myth. 40% of 18 to 29-year-olds think the Holocaust was a myth. That is insane. When it comes to 65-year-old plus, that's the group that we've been told is more common to believe that. Well, 4%. 4%. For 30 to, 30 to 65 or 30 to 60 or whatever it was, or 64, I'm guessing, 30 to 64, it was 12%. How is it 40? How does it jump from 12 to 40% over one generation? We should be severely concerned. Also, you think Democrats are less anti-Semitic? Bull. According to the statistics, moderates are actually the most likely to be to believe that the Holocaust is a myth. If I remember correctly, it was 26% of moderates believe that the Holocaust is a myth, 17% of Democrats, and 9% of Republicans. And then when it comes to like ideological beliefs, like conservative, liberal, leftist, it was, I think, 24% of leftists believe the Holocaust is a myth. Liberals, it was, I think it was 14%, and then conservatives, it was, I think, again, it was like 7 or 8% or something like that. And then it was the last one, not last, but it was one of the last calls. Urban, rural, and suburban. So you think urban would be the most educated, and suburban would probably be the most, second most educated, or even maybe the most. So they'd be the least. Wrong. Urban, this is where it gets crazy again. It's like 29%. And this is when you count up not just agree or not just strongly agree, but you count agree and somewhat agree. So if you agree with somewhat agree, or strongly agree, I'm counting that. I'm adding those percentages together because they're all technically you agree. Like, I don't know why that shouldn't have even been an option for this one. It should have just been yes or no. Stupid. So the 29% for the urban. And then for the suburban, I think it was 16%. And then for the rural, 4%. That's it. 4%. Why are we acting like these racist white, white, black, again, white, black, Asian, Hispanic. Of all those groups, the most we've been told is white, right? Wrong. White, least. Asian, second least. Hispanic, third least. Black, last. So everything we've ever been told about who's more anti-Semitic is a lie. About who doesn't believe in the Holocaust, it's a lie. Everything we've been told. Everything. And it's crazy. You can look up that poll. I might be like 1 or 2% off on some of those numbers, but I have it on my phone. Next video we can go over it. And we're running kind of long. I don't want to run any longer, so.
Police officers we've seen so far. But then again, I have to say, doesn't seem to be any particular need for them. Everything is going very peacefully. There's nothing untoward going on.
Most are mainstream media. Example just from yesterday, the court, the filing of the court of the genocide claim against Israel.
By South Africa.
By South Africa. BBC covers the defense by Israel, but does not actually cover the claim made by South Africa. That's just one basic example just from yesterday.
Okay, yeah, so 15% of blacks believe the Holocaust is a myth. Actually more than that. 23, 24. So 25% of blacks think the Holocaust is a myth. 7% of whites. 25% of Hispanics. Right? So 23 plus. Yeah. So they're both 25, black and Hispanic. And then Asian is 12%. And then 18 to 29, that's 40, 30 to 44, I guess. Okay, that one is 2. 16, a little higher than I thought, I guess. And then 60 or 45 to 64 is 4%, and 65 plus is 0%. Yeah, and it continues like this. People who make less income it's actually almost even all the way across the board. So it doesn't really matter how much income you make. And then voters, it was for Biden, it was 14% of Biden voters and 6% of Trump voters. Dems, it was 22% of Democrats believe it's a myth, the Holocaust, and then 12% of independents and 10% of Republicans. And then when it comes to liberal, moderate, conservative, it's 15% of liberals, 20% of moderates, 10% of conservatives. And then urban, suburban, rural, it's 9. So 14. So yeah. Okay, so 27% of urban, 7% of suburb, 6% of rural. So yeah. Sorry, the numbers are like super hard to see. Like itty bitty. So yeah, as you can tell, it's everything that we've been told it's the opposite of all that.
Kill people, wanted to kill as many civilians as they could. Would you use an excuse like that? That's what I would say.
So would you say that Israel is deliberately targeting civilians?
Yes.
I have a speaker.
You have a speaker?
I have a microphone.
Yeah.
I have lots of Palestinian activist tunes, if you can call them that.
Can you give us one?
Yeah.
Go for it. Let's do it.
We're here just to show our support.
Are you?
Before we end, I'll show you an actual Palestinian activist tune. This guy's a racist piece of crap. It's Jeremy Corbyn, I think.
To make it clear, it's not a war, it's a genocide, and that Israel state is a key part of the World Economic Forum. They completely work together. We want to...
Really? Because that's why Israel completely denounced the guy who supports the World Economic Forum and is the right hand of it, Yuval, whatever. They hate him now. He completely denounced religion. He completely denounced it as like some bullshit that you don't need to have, and human rights are just as fantastical as religion, and he's abandoned his Judaism. He works with like a man who used to be a Nazi. Like, no. Maybe there's people in that country who do that, just like in every country. There's people who work with an economic forum. It's huge in the Middle East. If you go to the World Economic Forum, you'll see like 1,000 different people in those little headdresses, the Middle Eastern headdresses, the chic headdresses. It's crazy. Like they have so many people from the Middle East there. It's insane. And you'll only see like a small handful of Jews, and that's because they're like just part of the elite class. Just like there's white people who are there, just like there's black people who are there, just like there's people from Hispanic people who are there, just like there's everybody who's there. And like and no matter what group you're from, your race is an integral part of that group. Whether you're white, whether you're nationality is part of that group too. Whether you're English or German or whatever, or Russian even, or whether you're Chinese or whether you're Canadian or you're American or Mexican, your people have a huge part to do in the World Economic Forum. Every country in the damn world does. Stop acting like Israel is the big bad.
To defeat the Israeli state and destroy the World Economic Forum.
Actually bring out the true definition of what is journalism, and I think it's a disgrace of what I've been seeing so far. And as soon as a person comes on, the first thing they do is say, do you condemn Hamas? And
what's wrong with that?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Do I condemn Hamas? I don't condemn Hamas.
Then interview over. I'm not watching you anymore because you're a trash human being who thinks terrorism is okay as long as it's considered resistance. That's enough of that. Let's go over this. I'll show you guys a video before I go of what these people really have in their actual Palestinian songs. Here we go. Here's a Palestinian activist song, what it actually sounds like. Here's the name of the song. Is Slice Open the Enemy's Chest. I have no love other than the love of the rifle. Fatah is like the kind of the group that was like, they were like the Hamas before Hamas. and like they still exist, but like they've been overrun by Hamas. That's why you'll see the songs now are made by either Hamas or the PA, because like they've basically just been overrun. Like Fatah is not considered to be like the crazy extremist anymore because they don't have the most extreme ideology, and they've been overrun by people who have more extreme ideologies and have better indoctrination methods. That's the headdress and outfit I'm talking about. You'll see that everywhere at the World Economic Forum. Yeah. And that's just one. Yeah. Fatah terrorists in 1965 did a whole massive bombing that killed a whole bunch of people. Like, this is where their ideology comes from. Fatah's been around forever. Like I said, they're like the original Hamas. I'll show you another one before I go. This is a more recent one. Not too much more recent, but pretty, actually, I think it is a little more recent. I think this is what, 2012 or something like that. 2014. Okay, did you see that? That's how they hide. They literally have trap doors in the desert where they hide rockets and crap. They hide in houses, in tunnels, like this. Like they say that's like Israel, but the thing is that's their shelter. That's not in Israel. Obviously, they're not filming terrorist videos in Israel. That's what happened after some of their bombings and stuff. Yeah, see, martyrdom, seek, blaze, hurry up, blow up Tel Aviv. That one was really bad. I think that might have been the one that the engineer committed. That was the bombing that killed like a couple of American like diplomats' kids and crap. And like, there's actually a great movie you can watch called The Engineer, which is the name of the suicide bomber. The bomb maker, and he equipped like tons of suicide bombers. This is actually why they put an actual border on Gaza instead of just a small checkpoint to make sure people were going back and forth safe. And this is before they even gave it up. So there's still Jews in the southern part of Gaza. But in the northern Gaza Strip, they had a small checkpoint, and that became an actual fenced in, fully secure area to make sure this never happened again. Yeah, so that's what we're dealing with, guys. So I hope you had a little bit of fun. Sorry it wasn't as light, as some of my other things, what I wanted to do. But we will be more light in the future. We'll do some crazy reactions to maybe some woke TikToks, maybe some other stuff. We'll get into some more fun stuff. But I hope this was interesting enough. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you walked away with this with a better understanding of what's going on in the Middle East. And, at the least, I hope I entertained you enough to stay here long enough to watch the majority of this and actually, gain a little bit of information in the process, whether you liked it or not. I appreciate it. Before you go, please please subscribe, please share with your friends if you can. We're trying to grow this channel as quickly as possible. I appreciate the help. I appreciate the watch. I appreciate everything. You guys have a great weekend. I guess it's weekend right now, Saturday. So have a great weekend. Have a great week if you're watching this during the week. And I hope you have a great night. Have a good one.